Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us in the pursuit of excellence. My name is Josh Cadillac, and once again, you're stuck with me. The driver's seat for today's show as we learn how to stop chasing paychecks and learn to start building a business we can be proud of as part of a life that we can be proud of. And we do this by talking to some successful folks in all different industries to see how they got where they are. We have a great show for you today because we have a great guest, Miss Jen Silva Boucher. Jen, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So, Jen, maybe the easiest way to start is to ask you to describe what it is you do.
Absolutely. So I am the speaker, coach, and founder of For the Middle Academy. And I created this business to support first-time middle managers and people managers that are promoted into position, but not given the resources to know how to actually manage teams toward high performance. So there was really that sense of kind of just put in that position and they have to figure it out. And that's where a lot of productivity and bottlenecks occur. So my training and speaking is really focused on bringing awareness to the lack of resources and talking about communication skills specifically that assist middle managers to really build high performing teams and keep everyone aligned and feeling valued at work.
All right. What got you started doing that?
Well, I've worked in corporate for over 20 years. And in that time, for many of us that have worked in corporate, have seen there's definitely a disparity in the way people manage. And we've definitely seen lack of management skills or just poor leadership, especially in that middle management space, can create daily havoc. It can create very toxic workplaces. So over time, when I started building teams, I saw what was working and what wasn't working. And I'm thinking everyone should have some sort of, especially at minimum, communication training and to really get your teams aligned, because the breakdown of why things don't occur or managers aren't managing, that famous quote from Jamie Dimon from Chase when he sent everybody back to work. They're not managing because nobody gives them the resources. We need to, that's the only way we're going to help these people and motivate people to do better at work. And they're going to increase your bottom line at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. What do you like best about what you do?
What I like best about what I do is connecting with people. And I think that's what sometimes we forget in business, that, there's sometimes this mentality, well, these people are hired to do a job and they just need to do it. But we're missing that human connection, right? We spend so many hours and time with these people. And we know if there's toxic relationships, people have, mental health issues and are stressed. And when they're like that, they don't perform their job well anyway. So what I really like is bringing awareness to this. The most interesting thing I found is people are like, why aren't more people talking about this? The lack of resources for this group of the workforce, right? What tends to happen is there's a lot of leadership training for once you become an executive level. Sometimes by that time it's too late, right? Or they're just teaching you different things, right? More strategic, and there might be, things about leading people, but you're missing this whole set of the workforce that the executive levels are relying to not only, deliver on the strategy, but to have these teams empowered to do their job well. So I like when I hear that connection piece of like aha moment, and that people really understand that the manager role is more than just telling people what to do. It's really being that advocate, leader, and coach for their team.
Yeah, no, feeling like they need to feel like they're part of something. They need to feel like the person that's in charge is pulling for them, is going to take and look out for them, have their back, if you will, and at the same time is also somebody that can be trusted to give them the feedback that when they're not doing something the way that they need to, in a way that they can accept, because people have that defensiveness. That trust has to be there that this person is actually pulling for them. Yeah, no, all of those are important things. It's great stuff. I got to ask though, because I love to ask about. Everybody always talks about the good stuff. I like to talk about the bad stuff too, because for entrepreneurs, that's the part that the unadvertised part of having your own business. What's the toughest part of what you do, Jen?
The toughest part of what I do is honestly being a solopreneur at this point is balancing what to do first. There are a lot, right? There's so many things to do. Again, being from corporate background, there's very specific departments that each have their own roles. And I think for me, the challenge is, okay, do I work on marketing today? Do I work on business development? Am I IT? What's going on with my
Well, who do we have for marketing? Well, we have Jen. How about for IT? Well, we have Jen. And yeah,
exactly?
no, I get it. I mean, you're talking to a bunch, most of the people that listen are real estate agents. Uh, and same thing, like every single box has their name on it as the person who's in charge of it. So the class that I get told all the time, the one that we never have a problem filling up is the one on time management.
Hmm.
It's it's a shorter class than maybe it should be, but it's well because to me time management is actually a pretty simple thing, but I think some people need more complexity for them to feel like it works. Um, but it's a thing. That struggle, that triage, what's the thing that's got to get done first is such a big thing.
And it's funny that you say that about complexity because, again, time management is a challenge for some. Some people it comes naturally. Think it also depends the role. But I feel like when you talk about, making things more complicated, I also feel like when I speak to some clients or people that are struggling with management, that's the same thing that happens. It's made to be more complicated. And I'm not to saying that, it's a one it because it's not a one size fits all approach, but there is something about people wanting only one way to do something, and if it's not, it's too complex. But at the end of the day, I say it's got to be just simplified because if it's not simplified, people don't want to do it,
Yeah,
right? So it's coming up with simple solutions that work for you and your team to keep you aligned and communicated. So I have a very simple framework of things that I talk about with them that it's really only 4 steps, but you have to kind of implement them into practice, which is advise, align, accountable, and appreciation. It's this loop that I've found that is very successful and it's simple. But people always want to make it more complex, right?
yeah,
We'll
yeah,
never have the answers to everything. Like, what if this situation arises in this? Well, we need to take one of those and figure out what time it is to use it, and then you use it. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated. You just have to take it as it comes.
yeah. Let me ask you this kind of bigger question. You obviously have developed this expertise. You have an angle that you've come at it that's different than others. What's the shit that makes you good at what you do? What's at the core of what makes you good?
I know how to connect with people and build trust. I think that's the biggest thing that
Mm,
people don't want to do. And all you really have to do is have that connection and care with the people that you work with. That's it.
yeah,
It sounds simple, but there are a lot of people that you come across. It's everything's a transaction, right? Um, I think if you look at it from the more human perspective and just talk to people to connect, and that is where I excel. You're going to see a big difference. 1 second to care. We are live very much in this "what's in it for me" mentality, right? I mean, I'm a marketer, right? So by trade. So it's like that's always what we're thinking about. Okay, what is good for the customer? Everything's about what is it in for me. When you get into leadership, you have to really change that mentality. And it's like, what's in it for them? Because at the end of the day, once you build that trust, it returns to you anyway, right? Because the value is going to go back and forth. If they're supporting you because they trust you and you give that trust, that's going to make your life easier. You're going to get more projects and things done more efficiently and effectively.
mm. No, I mean it really is. There's a line that I always think about from a movie, from The Godfather 2, and it's Hyman Roth talking about how he was always managed to be successful in this world where he was kind of an outsider. And he's like, I always made money for my partners. Like I always made money. In other words, he took care of the other people, and how he was able to take and be successful at his thing. And I think that's important. One of the things I always think about whenever I partner work with anybody, how are they going to make money for this? How is this good for them? And then I figure out what my piece is going to be after that, right? Because if I could figure out why would they do this, what would be a reason for them to do this, it puts me in a better position. It again starts with them and works backwards to me. And I just recently had a situation where somebody that I've always just sort of come through for, not really asking anything in particular, but I've just always been like, if they knew the one guy that would show up and be there and do what he was supposed to do was me, something came out and they got a chance to take and do something for me. And it was like instantly like a foregone conclusion. No, we're going to be there. Don't worry. Like they were excited for this. So when you talk about it coming back, you get that place in people's mind of this is a person that goes to bat for me. And I hope I get a chance to go to bat for them kind of thing. It's a better world to live in where we're all pulling for each other. And so, yeah, it's good stuff. I got to ask this though. One of my favorite questions to ask entrepreneurs because I like to let the other entrepreneurs out there know how this works. At some point, every person I've interviewed, Jen, hits rock bottom. They hit a point where it's just the moment where you say, "This is BS. It can't go on like this. It's something's got to give. Something's got to change." The moment that makes us take them and make the changes that we were too afraid or unwilling to make before. What was that moment for you?
Um, I think that moment for me was early on. Um, I remember, pitching at one of the local chambers, and I got a really good lead, someone that was super interested, had a call with me, put a proposal together, had another call, and then I just got ghosted. Like literally like ghosted. And I'm like, okay, maybe I am thinking too narrow, right? I was really trying to fit a specific box, I think, for this person in this type of organization. So I went back and I said, okay, I am gonna, not that I don't tailor, either my courses or, especially talks, because I talk on a bit of different leadership subjects. So I do want to make sure I do what's best for the audience, but I realized I'm not going to put myself so much in a box, more like, okay, I got to explain what I can deliver to assist them and take it from there and tell everybody about it. Because I'm also very, I'm not that big of a salesperson of myself.
Hmm.
I love to talk about other people, but when it comes to myself, I have a little bit of a struggle. So really coming to the realization that, I have to go broader. I have to start, getting on stages, getting on more podcasts, really putting myself out there. I loved one-to-one, but that's not going to help scale at the end of the
Yeah,
day, right?
yeah. No, how to get the message out there is one of the tough things because uh, similar to you, it's not something that you need to promote here and promote there. Was it
Right.
between that and the colonoscopy? How much do I have to actually drink for the colon? Like, it's not the sexiest thing. Like there's some people that like marketing themselves and taking pictures and like, wearing the sequin suit. I'm not the sequin suit guy. It's a thing. I go to NSA every year, and there's these speakers that are, they got glow in the dark shoes and they got the glasses that light up. And yeah, I don't. There's like not a universe where I could see how hard I'd have to get hit in the head to become that different to be that guy. And it's great. I mean, you do space for those people and the ones that come out there and got you ever be in the room doing jumping jacks and stuff like that. Not the jumping jack guy.
I know what you mean. Like and I love that too, but that's just not me, right? So my hope is that my message is strong enough that it breaks through some of that, those speakers that are just very eccentric or exciting or have all these props. Like again, that's great if that's your personality, but if I tried to do that, it would seem so forced because it's just not me, right? So I think
Unauthentic.
that you bring up a good point too, especially as entrepreneurs that are still building. and don't have like a whole team behind them yet, it's really like, okay, what's my authentic voice here? Um, because if anything, that's what you're going to be known for, right? It's not
Oh,
this,
I have the person to point everybody struggling with that too. The authentic voice person. Yeah, no, it's
even though
it,
I hate saying that at this point because it's
no,
so
I do
old.
too. Like you throw up a little bit in your mouth when you say it, but because it's just so everywhere. But like the OGs of getting in that space, the ones that really kind of carved that out. They carved it out because once again, like you said, they found a human need. They thought about somebody else and figured out a way to try to take and help people access that perspective of themselves they didn't otherwise have. The problem is it was such a good idea, other people jumped on board, and now it's as we say it, but it doesn't reduce the fact that there was probably an underlying need there at some point.
Right, right. Because, I think most people, when they start their careers, it's like, okay, I have my personal side and this professional side. And I think now we're seeing like kind of that convergence, right? Of I have to have a little bit personality because if I don't have my personality, what is my business, right? So I think that's where this whole authentic voice has stemmed from. But yeah, sometimes like with anything else, it just gets so overused that people are like, oh my God, again, another one with this authentic voice. So I'm just gonna say, I'm not gonna say authentic voice. I'm gonna say it's just me.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I mean, I actually think, and as you're saying it, kind of crystallized something in my head that I've never really articulated. It seems like now people have a more of an overt need to express themselves, like externally, because so much of their life is external facing with social media and things like that. They're everything that they get from other people's reaction to their what they're doing. Um, and so there is kind of this disconnect between the introspection of figuring out like who you are, what you like, how you are, kind of thing. Um, and so, like, how do people express themselves? It's, fashion, it's, put things all of this, there's so much of that on the outside stuff. But like the things you do because that's who you are and what you like. I think a little bit of that gets lost in the effort to express oneself externally. All of that seems to be more directed to other people and what their response is going to be to what you've done rather than so much maybe what you want. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
No, I know what you're saying. It's a very fine line, and I know from my perspective, I'm definitely in the demographic that didn't grow up with social media, right?
yeah.
And many times I think about my 20s and I'm glad I didn't, but um,
Hey guys, what are you thinking of my new face tattoo?
it is, and it is very anxiety, it provokes anxiety, right? And especially it's like, well, are they somebody going to like it? And it is, I think for especially a lot of business people, it's like, okay, I know I have to put myself out there and this is how I have to do it. But then you start diluting your message to your point because is this something that's going to resonate? I got to maybe this video didn't do well, so I have to do this. And I try not to get too much into that. So honestly, I try to cut, like, very limit my social media because I notice if I start going on a binge where I'm just going and going, like I actually feel it like rising inside me. Like, why am I doing this? And then I start comparing myself. And I can't imagine for a younger person how much worse it is when they kind of grew up that way. Um, but I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but
No, no, no. It's
I
it's
think
it's
it's a
it's okay.
struggle for everyone, especially when you're in business of what's that line of, I just want to talk about my message versus is this going to get viewed? Because at the same time, it still takes time and resources, right? Go back into your time management. Then you were going to go, is this worth my time? And it got like 7 hits. You're like, oh, wow.
Yeah,
And you
no,
don't even know if they were the right people.
yeah, no. The psychopath in the prison ward gave you a like. That's not exactly the demographic you're shooting for, right? Um, I think it's interesting because when it's just you when you work for somebody else, you have to worry about you, your experience of work, whatever. But the second you attempt to lead, you now have to get other people to follow, right? And so it can no longer be so internally facing because now you're trying to take and get the best out of other people, and that can look very very different. And so, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I want to ask you this though: in your journey, what was the What was the thing when you started working for yourself that wound up being harder than you expected, or the thing that surprised you about working for yourself?
Um, I think that thing that surprised me in a good way is meeting people that were so generous. Generous in a way that, hey, this is great. Let me help you. Like if I can like drop your name somewhere, that was honestly surprising. Because you always hear that people like when they start businesses, they don't like, people like which there I think there's still some of the people that, don't root for you. But I was really surprised at a lot of the love and support I was given, right? Um, so that surprised me and actually made me feel like, okay, maybe this is well worth it. This is well worth, putting myself out there, putting this message out there. I do believe in this message, right? I think this part of the workforce is seriously, seriously overlooked. And they are giving expectations that sometimes they're just set up for failure because they're not given enough resources. So it made me feel that I'm going in the right direction. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, that pleasant is nice. Where do you think all the success came from for you?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Where do you think all the success has come from for you? What do you track it to?
I say perseverance and consistency, right? Just having that mentality that every day I'm going to do a job that is of value and that will hopefully help someone and will serve the greater good. That's just what keeps me going. And then, of course, being a role model to my kids, that's always a big one for me, showing them that, it's hard work, it's consistency, it's relationship building. Um, that kind of keeps me going.
What do you think it is in your makeup? And I want to say in your makeup, kind of the way you came from the factory, the way you came wired, that has made you good at what you do.
Hmm. It's an interesting question. Trying to think of when, like, where this probably started. I've always had an interest in connecting with people. I would definitely say I'm more of an introvert in large groups, but most people will tell you that know me really well. Like, once you get to know me, like, I don't shut up. Um, but I really want to connect with people at a deeper level. My friends also make fun of me that, oh yeah, small talk. Like I'm not great at small talk. I've been
Okay.
getting better, and having to get better, right, as a business owner and starting conversations. I though really don't call it small talk. I try to ask more introspective questions that won't get a yes or no answer. One, because that's actually what more that I'm able to speak to. And two, I hate the small talk. It makes me cringe. So I think just always having that, when I talk to my teams, like it's real connection. I guess that's always been innately in me. I don't like just kind of like top of like to me, I rather just not talk. I'll nod and smile. Maybe it's the New Englander in me.
Yeah, that could do it. It's hilarious. When it comes to the small talk bus, if there was a short bus for small talk school, I'd be driving that bus. It's soul crushing. My mother had the gift. I mean, she would start talking to people, and she was just so freaking interested. And it's really, oh my God, that's so interesting. So, and she always had another question, and it was always like this. And these people would just, and they'd wind up telling her way more. And I'd always watch it and think to myself, what's wrong with me? Like, why can't I do that? I'm sitting here doing differential cash flow, like I'm doing all this complicated math and all this other stuff. Why can't I do that?
Hmm.
Yeah, no, it's a
Gift
gift.
for gab, the gift for gab. And believe me, I there's been times in my life I feel like if I had that gift, um, it'd be a lot easier to do some certain things. But I have to go, well, I have other gifts, right? And that's just not my gift. So uh, mine is just more a deeper connection with people. And I think that's why I've been able to, drive high performance historically and build trust with my teams. Yeah. It really comes from, starting your communication with alignment, right? And just creating rhythms with your team. They have to really just stop setting meetings and start setting that cadence of creating rhythms with their teams to build that trust. And that's the thing too, people sometimes want the easy solution. It just takes time. I'm not saying it has to take years and it shouldn't have to take years, but it takes a little bit of time and effort, right? Anything that's worth it does.
Yep. How do you manage yourself, though, Jen, when there are unmet expectations, when there's disappointments, when there's setbacks? It's part of the entrepreneur's journey. It's not a well advertised piece of the journey. When you get punched in the face, what is it that you go? What are the mental games, the way you think about it, that you the levers you pull to keep you in and keep you moving forward?
Yeah, so I would say the immediate hit, and typically like the way I roll is, if I get something really disappointing, bad feedback, something, um, I usually withdraw for a little bit just within myself. And of course, I try to stop the negative self talk, which we all do. I typically try to either take a walk or if it's too cold out, because I live in New England, meditate. And that usually will just help me like clear my head. I usually give myself a day, quite honestly. And then I wake up the next morning and say, this is a fresh new day. I hope I learned something from this and move on. But for people to say, I'm not the kind of person that's, whatever, like just shrug it off. I still need that time to process, but I don't allow it to stop me from trying anything else or getting up the next day and trying something differently. Or maybe it's, hey, again, we all know there's tons of different businesses. Not everyone is your customer. You also have to realize that, right? Not everyone is your customer, right? If we were targeting everybody, nobody would have a business, right? This is why we have all specialties and niches. So I think it's also, especially in entrepreneurship, understanding that. And maybe it was a good thing that either that customer didn't come your way or this project didn't work out. So I try to just keep my thoughts that way and moving forward.
Makes sense. Kind of a 10,000, 30,000 foot view kind of question here. This has probably been a moving target throughout your life, but as of this moment right now, what does success look like for you? What would that be?
At this point in my life, success would be freedom of time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm in a very busy stage of life, building a business. I still have, children at home. So that help, just driving them to wherever they have to be, knowing their schedule. I am always struggling to find enough hours in the day. So to me, success would be that freedom of time to sometimes sit down and just have a cup of coffee and just listen to the birds or, take more time to enjoy. I've been really trying to be more present for family activities because I think my mind starts going on what I have to do the next day or what's coming up. So that's always something that I'm trying to balance out. But I'm hoping at one point I'll get to that freedom of time because at the end of the day, I think that's more valuable than money.
I hear you. No, the ability to take and enjoy what you've worked hard for is something that most of us either don't have the time or we get so wrapped up in what's made us successful, we don't have the ability anymore to relax enough to enjoy what we've done. So I want to talk to you about and give you a chance to talk a little about your coaching and what it is that you do. We understand it's for entry level management and all this sort of thing. I want to give you a chance to talk to the person who probably needs it right now. How would that person know that they need what you have?
If you're a manager that has felt that you're drinking out of a fire hose or that you have no resources, you're feeling stress from the top and no support from your team, this is who it's for. Or you're just not sure how to manage his team, but feel a little bit insecure and asking for help because I think the mentality also is, well, I was put in this position, so they're expecting me to know. this isn't your issue, right? I feel like this is a systemic issue in corporate. People are promoted because they're great individual contributors, not because they know how to lead people or teams, right? And there's been studies on this. There's actually a Zanger Folkman study that the average age a person becomes a leader or people manager is 30. The average time they get their first training for leadership is 42. I mean, there's a 12-year gap. Reaching people, we're trying to give them leadership training when they're at the top part of their careers, when it should be when they're first getting in there. And again, not to say that this training is solely for like, hey, if you've been a manager 5 years, you wouldn't find this valuable, because if you've never had training, or the other one I hear is well, people learn as much as from their bad managers as their good managers. Well, that's true. That's great. But that's like gambling. Isn't that the luck of the draw? So what if
Let's
you've
slot
only
something into it.
had, yeah, what if you've only had bad managers? And then you think that's normal, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
I want to say, like, I've been a middle manager, right? So I know what that feels like. So, and it's also bringing awareness to like the C-suite level folks and, business owners. Hey, if you're having problems, like, have we talked about training, right? Like, your managers aren't managing, putting them in more proximity, like what these big corporations are doing without giving them training. What is that going to do? They're still going to do the same things that they were doing just
right.
remotely in front of their computer. Nothing is going to change. I guess it just makes people feel better that everybody's in the office. But what's going to change? Do you really want to carve this path to having higher productivity on your teams? Then you need to support the people that, need
Make up
to
those things. Yeah.
empower the doers, right? And the people that want to add value,
Yeah.
um,
No,
and
it makes
growth
sense.
opportunities.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. But now we enter lightning round.
Oh boy.
And so lightning round, just kind of your first take, quick answers to these things. It's not like this is a podcast and it's going to be encapsulated for history for everybody to hear exactly what you came up with on the fly. Uh, what happens in the podcast stays in the podcast, and the millions of listeners that
Oh boy.
no,
No pressure. No pressure.
no pressure, but just your fast answers to these things, so we can make sure to be respectful of your time. And at the same time, just find out a little bit more about you.
Okay.
So, what would you say is the most important thing, Jen, that you've learned in the process of doing all that you've done?
Be open-minded to people's experiences.
Okay.
We all came from different experiences, especially in the workforce, and just trying to be mindful, right? Some people have had really great experiences, some people have had really traumatic experiences. So just being open-minded to listen to those, but still stay, kind of stay the course of what we would be helpful in their roles.
Okay. What are you most proud of in business you've accomplished?
I'm most proud of getting myself on podcasts.
I'm glad I could be part of that.
No, really just getting, again, because, by nature, I'm an introvert until I get to know you. So really putting myself out there, meeting new people, that is a big growth step for me. So I think that's a big one.
Similar question, but more personal. Most proud of in life. What are you most proud of in life you've accomplished?
This is probably going to be very typical, but I think the most proud I'm in life is really my family and my friend unit, and having police people that not, quality over quantity. And I have some really good people in my life.
Absolutely. The people that are there because they want to be. It's good stuff. One piece of advice you'd give our listeners.
One piece of advice. I would just say, it's such a broad question.
I shoot for gold.
I know. I mean, it's like on life, on this. I think the biggest thing of advice that I would say is, just because we're talking about, I think at the top of my head, because we're talking about management, is just be open, just be kind, and come from a place that we're all going through something. Let's just try to connect and
Let's try
work
to get through
best
it together. Yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. Um, This is a tough question, Jen, and I apologize. But
Uh-oh.
what's the one book you tell somebody, look, there's one book you got to read. You got to read this. What's that book for you?
The one that comes at my top of my head is start the Simon Sinek book. Actually,
Start with why.
start with why. That's probably my top one. I have a few others, but that one just was the first one that popped to my head. That's a really great one.
All right. This next one may be even worse.
Oh no.
Favorite movie of all time, Jen? What's the movie if it's on TV, you're not changing the channel?
Oh my God. I just talked to somebody about this because I was like, that's such a loaded question. It's like saying, what's your favorite song, right? Because I have a top few. So I'm going to spit out three of my top that I always stop on if they're on TV, which they're hardly ever on TV unless you're like on streaming things, but I find them. Weird Science from the 80s.
Okay.
Grandma's Boy. I love that Adam Sandler movie. Um, and probably Pretty Woman, maybe.
Okay. Famous person in history you'd want to meet if you could.
Oh, geez. Famous person in history. I've never really even thought of that question. That's so interesting. Um,
Okay. We try to be a thought provoking podcast.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like I'm drawing a blank here, like as if I don't know anything about history. But um,
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll circle back to that one, and I'm going to ask you the more personal version of it. What person from your past would you want to sit down with and have lunch with today if you could?
oh, it's not that I can't think of it. I think I'm just gonna get emotional. I don't like this question. Probably my grandmother.
I get
That
it.
passed away, yeah.
One piece of advice you'd go back and give a younger version of you.
You're never ready. Do it anyway. Oh my God. I'm always a perfectionist. It's not ready yet. Do it anyway. Do it now.
Okay. Circling back to our previous question, person from history you'd want to sit down with and meet if you could.
Oh gosh. Maybe Martha Washington. I want to see how she dealt with George.
That would be a very good one, right? Being from New England area, that very much about the early founding of the U.S. Yeah, all right, I could see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am from the Constitution state. So I don't know why that just popped in my head. I never thought about Martha that much before, but maybe she's
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
probably so.
Yeah,
Probably.
I'm gonna have to look her up, see if there's any historical stuff on her.
Well, I can tell you this: the biography that Chernow did on Washington, any biography that Chernow does, Ron Chernow, if he does anything, like I always buy it and read it. While I don't buy anyone else's biographies or whatever, but him, he did one on Grant. He did one on the one he did on Hamilton is the reason why the play got made.
Hmm.
He's that guy. He wrote the biography on Hamilton that eventually went up with the play being made that kept him on our money. He stayed on our money because the play was so popular because he nobody knew who
Wow.
he.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
realize that. I didn't. Why were they thinking about taking him
yeah,
off?
they were going to take him off.
Oh,
They
I
were going
didn't.
to take him off because nobody knew who he was anymore. We forgot.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And
Oh,
what's
that's
interesting,
interesting. I didn't know that fact. See, I learned something today.
I do my best to be not only very hard for you to come up with answers for, but also to be educational. Yeah, no, the thing that's interesting is, most of the founders are from New England or Virginia. Hamilton was from New York, which is just kind of that different animal. And once you've read Chernow's book, and if you go back to New York City, all of a sudden you start seeing all this stuff dedicated to Hamilton and Lafayette and all these guys because they were such a big part of what went on in the revolution. And it's just kind of unsung. The big reason being that, after the revolution was over, it took us like 6 years to get the British to actually leave New York. After the
Mm,
war was like over, like, yeah, no, it's over. Or it's over. We're going to leave. We're going to leave next week. They were like, it's like evicting a tenant today in New York. It takes like 6 years. So it's a thing. Jen, you got the entrepreneurial bug, the gene, the whatever you call this thing, which means there's always something else percolating up here. There's always that next project, that thing that we're working on or toward. What's next for you?
well, it's funny that you say that. I do have an idea, um, but I'm not sure I'm 100% ready to share it yet. But it's something along that I feel that will be more of a community driven. resource for middle managers and people managers, maybe like an event or virtual type of experience. So I do have that in the back of my head. So interesting that you brought it up this week. It's like you got ESP.
No, it's just a thing I've learned, Jen. Us folks that work for ourselves are always looking for some way to take and do it better. It's the nature of what we do.
Yeah, you're right.
So, last question I have: where can people find you?
They can easily find me at my website, forthemiddleacademy.com. They can also find me on LinkedIn. Look up Jen Silva Boucher. That's my primary social media platform right now. I am just dipping my toes into TikTok. So there is a TikTok out there, Jen Silva Bouch, because it wouldn't let me use all my full last name. So it's there as well. So hopefully you'll start seeing some more tips and content from me about for middle managers and how their training can help support your business in corporate growth.
Good stuff. Jen, thanks so much for hanging out with me. It was great getting a chance.
Of these questions, you really put me on the spot. You made me think.
A little bit, a little bit. I want to also thank our listeners. Thanks, guys, for spending your time with us. As I remind you every time, there's never a good excuse not to know your shit. Till next time.